Hi, and welcome to the gun room. How are you people? I'm in the gun room with Jay. How are you, Jay?
Yeah, good.
And we're with Mitch. How are you, Mitch?
Not too bad.
How was that old game then at the Emirates? We'll talk about
It was
detail and
it
stuff.
was awesome. It was a great first experience to be able to go to the Emirates for a good game to be there for to see a win, and hopefully I'll be going back in the next couple months.
I went through one of these phases. You'll probably relate to this, Jay, where you go to a match and you get rubbed out. You get on the wrong end of a score, and then you come back again and you get on the wrong end of a score, and you think, oh, it must be me. I'm not going this week. And then they win. And you think, shall I go back or not? You go back and they get thumped. So I did that for a little while. I did that for about 6 or 8 weeks or something. all sort of superstition, isn't it, really? But
Yeah.
right, before we start, we'll cover a transfer rumour, which I thought would be fun in each podcast, which you can comment on in 6 words or less. Okay, got it? Ready? Paul Pogba to Arsenal. Jay.
So I've got 6 words, right?
Yeah, 6 words or less.
Not going to happen.
Hey, good one. Mitch?
He stole my 4. I was going to use those.
Well, it will do. It will do. I just simply put no. I was going to go no thanks, but here's a quick one for you before we start. There's been a lot of fuss about how to celebrate a win. Danny Murphy, Wolves. Is there a problem with celebrating a win, especially when you're down to 10 men? I just don't get it.
Seems to be if it's the Arsenal. If it's the Arsenal, we're not allowed to celebrate. But other clubs, obviously.
Wasn't it funny when Wolves said about us celebrating, and then did you see them when they won the game? They were like, it's like FA Cup stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I really don't think it matters. Like,
of course it doesn't.
As long as you're not popping out champagne during a regular Premier League match, I don't think there's any word to be angry about someone's celebration.
Sort of doing a bit of a jig round the ground or something, doing a bit of a dad dance there. The Brentford game, lads, I was expecting the complete reverse of the opening game of the season. Spanish Michael came out and said as much. He said he was going to it was going to see a different Arsenal. Do you think it lived up to the hype, Jay?
I think it was we played well. Like, we completely controlled the game. I mean, I don't know if you probably saw the same thing I did. Obviously, Mitch, you were in the ground, but the commentary on whichever TV station it was, they were saying that Brentford were causing us some problems on the break, and it just never happened. I couldn't see that at all. We were in total control. I thought defensively we completely bossed it, and we were creating chances, and we probably should have scored 1 or 2 in the first half, and lucky not to score really. Lacazette's his offside effort, maybe he should have. I think it was Xhaka that was offside, wasn't it, in that move? So maybe probably should have gone in 1-0 up at least. And I thought overall dominated them. They're not a good side, Brentford. They're not a great side. I think they're in free fall, aren't they? They're lucky that they've got the amount of points that they have, because I can't see them picking up too many more as the season goes on. And it was a really encouraging performance because we completely controlled the game. And the 2-1, it kind of flattered them because we dominated. And obviously, Mitch, you were in the ground. Were the fans, were the supporters, were they getting anxious, or was it?
There was a bit of anxiety when we were only up 1-0 after the Smith Rowe goal. There was after the celebrations died down, there was a little bit of anxiety because we kind of stopped controlling the game as much. And then all of that was just kind of broken once Saka scored his goal. It was all right. We're good. We're feeling.
I never felt watching the game. I never felt that we were gonna let it slip. I never felt. I mean, more and more as this season's gone on, I've felt a lot more confident that the team can see out results, and they can defend leads a lot better than they have in recent years. And I mean, they're not a great side, like I said, Brentford, and they don't carry much of an attacking threat. But they never looked like scoring, never. And even their goal, it was a crap goal, wasn't it? Crap to concede. It was really scrappy, and totally controlled it.
It was evident that Arsenal had the lion's share of the possession, slick and sharp going forward, nice little touches and passes. But it does worry me that we're cutting a brick with a spoon up front with Lacazette. Lacazette yet again showing us that he can't do that crucial finish at a time when we actually need him to. It's just like we missed the boat, isn't it? In the transfer window, we're just that little bit short. Mitch.
At the end of the day, I don't think there was like any opportunity to like really get someone that would have been a serious upgrade at the price we were willing to pay for them. Like it's very easy as a fan when you've played FIFA career mode a couple times to be like, oh, you can splash out 75 million for Alexander Isak. But when you're trying to run a team and trying to build a sustainable model, that's not when you're not gonna panic buy. So I mean, as fans, we gotta hope that Lacazette finds his form soon, or that we find some alternative option. There's been a lot of talks, obviously, for weeks now about Martinelli playing striker potentially. There's been talks this week about Smith Rowe playing a false nine role. So there's a lot of different directions I think we can go within the squad. I think the best option for us is that Lacazette finds his shooting boots as we move through the season. But like through the game, I don't think Lacazette was the reason that we didn't score more than two necessarily. We controlled the game really, really well. We had like 80% possession in the first half, and we were trying to score on the opposite end that I was in the first half, and I did not see much of the game, like because it was far away from me pretty much the entire half, and which is a good thing. I wanted that. I didn't want to see Ramsdale make any saves in front of me. We very much controlled the game. I do disagree with what Jay said about Brentford being a bad team, though. I do think that they're a pretty quality side, especially for a newly promoted team. They were without Ivan Toney, who's probably their best player. They've got a really good model. I definitely think that they'll survive this season. And if they do, I think they're definitely going to be what like they have a similar model to what Brighton have been doing of like they're a very well-run club. And I think that they have the ability to be a mid-table side for a good amount of time and not really be scared about relegation. Thomas Frank's a good manager. They're really, really good at replacing players. They'll probably sell Tony in the summer for like 40 million and replace him with someone better. That's just how they run things, and they are a pretty good team. So it was a great match by Arsenal. We played really well. Obviously, it sucked to lose the clean sheet at the end. But really good performance. I think almost everyone played really well.
I think that what Brentford suffered from really is that fizz bang. They've come up, they hit the ground running, and for a spell, they were electric, weren't they? But when you get to this stage of the season, it really does sort the men out from the boys. And there's that kind of that grind, isn't there, as you're finding your gear, and results are harder to come by.
On the day, they didn't cause us any problems whatsoever.
No, they were terrible. And
they didn't have any.
100%.
Right. I just want to add about that Lacazette. I think what most of us or all of us have enjoyed about like sort of his performances since he's come into the team. He drops deep and his link up play is good, and it means that Martinelli or Saka or whoever's out wide can get beyond and he can play the balls through. And he was dropping deeper, but his passing was poor. He was giving the ball away far too much, and he was dropping deeper and deeper into Ødegaard's position. And what we need, I said at the time, what we need is we need him further forward. We need him in a centre forward position because we need him to score. We can't, the longer this season goes on, everybody's saying 14 cup finals left, and yeah, I suppose you can look at it that way, but we're going to need a striker. We're going to need somebody to be there to, I don't know, it could cannon in off his arse or could go, off his knee, or but if he's
That's
not
the most
injured,
likely.
that's what, if he, at the moment he's just not even in the right positions, really, you know, and he's looking to drop deep a little bit too often, and his passing was dreadful. And I don't think he had his best game of the season on Saturday, but we're going to need him. You know, he's our only option, and he's our better option because, you know, the other option's Nketiah, and I haven't seen anything recently anyway to suggest that he's going to do any better than Lacazette. So, I mean,
I think we've said before, though, Jay, haven't we, that he does a lot of donkey work for about 70, 75 minutes. He does a lot of work that goes unnoticed. People tend to think, well, he's a striker, he should get goals. Of course he should. I mean, that's his stock and trade. But he does link up people. He pulls people away. Sometimes he drops too deep, absolutely. But he does do a lot of good work.
You see, that's okay. Him dropping deep's okay if he's impacting the game in a positive way. I think, you know, certainly not like slating him or anything. He just didn't have a very good game. You know, he was pretty wasteful with the ball. And I mean, you know, he was guilty of giving the ball away far too often. But we've got Martinelli back for the Wolves game, haven't we? So it'd be interesting to see if Mikel probably won't change it, because I think Mikel definitely likes the influence that Lacazette has on the rest of the team, and I can imagine in the changing room is a real positive person to be in there to help the youngsters, and I'm pretty sure he'll go with Lacazette. But you know, as the season goes on, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe Martinelli goes a little bit more central, or I mean Smith Rowe maybe. I'm not sure about that myself, but I'd rather Martinelli go central, to be honest.
Quick note for you, Mr. Cedric, who we've burdened a little bit, haven't we? We've given him a tough time. He's making us look like a bunch of monkeys at the minute, isn't he? Last two games, 98 touches, made 66 passes with an 87.9 accuracy, and weighed in with a staggering 16 crosses. He's not doing too badly, is he?
No, not
what do
too
we
bad
know?
at all. Yeah, no, he's not playing badly at all. He was combining really nicely with Odegaard and Saka on the right. And I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy that he's doing well. That being said, if Tomiyasu's healthy, I don't see this being like how it was with Tavares and Tierney earlier in the season, where Tierney got hurt and then Tavares came in, performed well, and then kept the spot for a bit. There's no reason why Cedric should start over Tomiyasu if Tomiyasu is 100%. Tomiyasu was on the bench for the Brentford game. He didn't come into the match. I imagine he'll be 100% for Wolves. And if he is, Tomiyasu should be the starting right back. There's no reason to even think about, oh, Cedric's had a good couple of games. Yeah, he has. He's played well, but there's such a huge level difference between him. Tomiyasu's worst day is better than Cedric's average day. So no question of who should start against Wolves if Tomiyasu is healthy.
Well, we had a penalty shout, no VAR. They seem to have unplugged it or something. An offside against Xhaka, a handball, and then at the end, Brentford nicked a goal, really. And I think that was it was more of us just allowing them to potter on. Jay, what did the officials get right out of that lot? What stands out for you as a glaring error?
Oh, I mean, who was the referee? Was it
all of it?
Was it Moss who was the referee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's atrocious. What did they get wrong? Wow. Well, it's just becoming it's beyond a joke now, isn't it? Just how the standards are different. Did either of you two see the Man United Leeds game at all, and see McTominay with some of the challenges he did, and he didn't. I think what did he got one booking? Is that right?
One booking out of 6 really thuggish tackles.
And it's just the standards are so different, aren't they? I'm just so sick of it now. We just everybody talk. It's just the number one topic, isn't it? After each Arsenal game, it seems to be just these crappy refereeing decisions, and just bloody sick of it.
Xhaka being offside, yes, he was. I think we'll wrap that one up and put that one to bed. But the one that hacked me off was the Lacazette one. I think he could have got a penalty out of that. I watched it about 3 or 4 times, and I thought, wow, come on. Every week, someone seems to get a penalty out of that. I mean,
That's
Harry
unfair.
Kane falls in the box from outside the box and he gets a penalty.
Yeah.
It's absolutely shameful. Right, let's move on to the goals. Epic. Mitch, beautiful goals. Firstly, Smith's Rowe, 48 minutes. That surging, trademark, purposeful run. I bet it was a joy to watch. He just goes through the gears, doesn't he? He gets in a position, his head pops down, and he's at it. He's on it. What was it like watching it live?
It was fantastic to see him to drive down the wings, split the two defenders, and then put it in the back of the net. It was a fantastic goal, as well as Saka's just as good. We've got two unbelievably talented players that will hopefully be Arsenal players for a long, long time. Really great that we have two players that can just make things happen. When we had like a long half of controlling the game but not getting that final goal, we have players that are able to, okay, we can do this and just take the ball, pick them up, score. And it's really impressive, just the amount of talent that they have, being so young. I mean, Saka's younger than me, and like it's crazy to be.
What's that, by a week?
Like a couple months. Like it's weird. And they're both unbelievably talented, and hopefully will be Arsenal players for a long, long time.
Jay, let's move on to Saka's perfectly timed and taken goal. 79 minutes. It's another piece of quality. There's something shifting in this guy. He's maybe suddenly starting to realise what he's got. What I like about this pair is it reminds me of the George Graham era, where they got these youngsters and they all came through together. I mean, these two have played together for some time. But talk me through the goal. What did you? It was a piece of brilliance, wasn't it? So exciting to watch.
Yeah, it was. It's super. I think Saka started to move, didn't he? Deep inside our half, and he released the ball to Partey. Partey travelled forward, and I think Lacazette was in space, wasn't he? But he decided to play it back to Saka, and Saka took it, and then he unleashed a lovely finish, like really strong, controlled shot to the far side. And we were watching in off the post, and lovely, brilliant. Unbelievable finish. You love to see it. Hit it so sweetly. You love to see it. And I was sitting watching the game with my son, and he said to me, he was like, my son's 16, and he said, this season Saka seems to be stronger, and I thought that's a really good observation. He seems to be not only physically stronger, and he's not only he actually kicks the ball harder, if that makes sense. And he seems to be and that's obviously confidence, but he's Saka's also, week in, week out, we're seeing a more polished player, aren't we? And somebody who's growing in confidence and who's more willing to take players on and take on shots like that. And I mean, that finish, it reminded me a little bit of Van Persie. He used to, with that left foot into that far corner, and and obviously great scenes, and it must have been great in behind that goal. More than we deserved. We dominated the game, and then we are so lucky. Just going back to the Smith Rowe goal, I thought for a split second the goalie would save it, because the ball looked quite close to the keeper, and I thought when he went down, I thought he was going to palm it away, but he didn't. So, but that's becoming Smith Rowe's trademark, isn't it? He's dribbling forward, direct, and just rolling it into that far corner. So yeah, very lucky to have them. Great players, superb.
Question to you both. Guardiola, obviously he had Arteta there, and Arteta had an impact on Raheem Sterling. Do you think this is what the key is, lads, that he's actually sort of getting in with Smith Rowe and Saka, and he's doing this little bit of magic, bringing them on, teaching them things and making them a more rounded, more developed player? Mitch?
I think the bigger one to compare him to is actually Leroy Sané, who has said multiple times after leaving Man City that Mikel Arteta was one of the biggest reasons why he was able to be so successful as a goal-scoring winger. And coming from a system like Manchester City, where you have Raheem Sterling, where you have Riyad Mahrez, where you have Leroy Sané, all of these wingers that are really prolific goal scorers, I can't imagine it hurts to be Saka or Smith Rowe or Martinelli these players who are learning to play these wide positions, and having someone who really was able to see world-class players and help world-class players get to that point. So I mean, it's a really Arteta definitely had something to do with all of their development. Bukayo Saka is 20 years old and is able to hold the width on the right wing with the maturity and confidence of a 28-year-old. It's really impressive that we talk about like the levels between him and Pepe. Of Saka is able to work on his own on the right wing, playing that like almost isolated with very few very little help from like Tomiyasu or whoever's playing right back. And that's where Pepe kind of breaks down when he plays on the right. Granted, Saka was on the left when he scored his goal, but his maturity to play on the left and to hold that width really effectively on his own is a really underrated part of his game that he's unbelievably good at his age. I mean, if we're being completely honest, he's probably the second best right winger in the league. And he's 20. It's unreal.
Played the most games as well. Jay, it's phenomenal what he's doing for his age, as we keep pointing out. But he's going to be an absolute massive mega star, isn't he? Thankfully, he's just signed a new deal, apparently. So that's good.
Yeah.
Wax
Also,
lyrical about him.
You can't forget as well just what happened in the summer. You know, with missing that penalty and how big a deal that would have been to him, and everything that followed with all the rubbish that was on social media after the England miss, you know. And yeah, I suppose there was a slight little hangover, which you'd expect, but Mitch covered it perfectly there. He's just, like I said earlier, he's probably the first name on the team sheet, isn't he, Saka? You know, he's now adding goals to we spoke about this before, haven't we, Tom, how he's much more willing to take on defenders, and you see more and more now opposition teams doubling up against him or tripling up against him, and he's still so much of a threat, and he rarely has a bad game, you know, and he gets kicked, he gets hacked, but he just keeps going, and he seems to have a great attitude, and I mean, I know I say it every week, what price would you put on him? You know, if somebody came in and with the inflated prices for England players, you know, you'd be looking towards sort of hundreds of millions, wouldn't you? And he's a great player, and well, I hope he is tied down to a long-term contract, because it's going to be, if he continues at this rate, if the club don't manage to get back into the Champions League, the big sort of European super clubs are going to come after him, aren't they? So we need to make sure we're in the right position to match his quality, you know.
Well, the good thing about this is that he is he's grown up, hasn't he, in the Arsenal academy? So that gives them a little bit more of the old heart thing, doesn't it? They really do relate to the club in a different way, as opposed to buying a player in. That's key, really, to holding on to these players. Mitch, sorry, what were you going to say?
I mean, that is my biggest worry, is that if we don't qualify for the Champions League, is that, like, I think his deal expires in 2023. So we don't have all that much longer, or maybe it's 24, it's somewhat soon, to where if we don't qualify for the Champions League, a team like Liverpool, a team like Man City might come knocking this window, this summer. We've seen rumors about it, and it's very possible. He's a really, really good player already, and it's a little worrying because a player of his caliber should be playing in the Champions League. So if we don't make it, there's a decent chance, regardless, that he grew up with the club, that he might be more willing to go to a team that's challenging for the Champions League, challenging for the Premier League. And as fans, I don't think we could really blame him if that was the case. But also, as much as it would hurt if something like that was to happen, a lot of rebuilds are energized by the sale of a player. Coutinho comes to mind for Liverpool. He was hands down their best player at that time. They sell him and they're able to buy Van Dijk. They're able to buy Alisson. That's what catapults them to the top. I'm not saying we should sell Bukayo Saka, but if the situation, I trust the club to do the intelligent thing as hard as it could be if we were to cross that road.
I mean, as long as the club are continuing to improve season in, season out, we're okay, aren't we? You know, as long as
hopefully, yeah.
As long as he can see that things are improving and you know the club is moving forward and improving, then we're all right. It's what happens if we just don't get it, and I mean, it is concerning, I suppose, but we are moving in the right direction, you know.
Yeah.
So I think
there's a naivety with fans as well, thinking, oh well, he's tied down to a long-term contract. Contracts these days, they're not really worth that much, are they? If someone comes knocking, they can buy out that contract, and the club will go high because they've got a long-term contract. So just a little bit of perspective, trying to balance it. But God willing, he doesn't go anywhere. Same with Smith Rowe. Lads, Smith Rowe comes on, gets a goal, looks electric again. You got Martinelli. He'll be back or in contention for a starting spot. How do we balance this so we can get these guys in the team? It's looking a bit awkward. It's looking a bit like, how'd you do it?
The obvious thing with a lot of fans would be to play Martinelli at striker. I think that I don't know what the long-term plan for him is at the club. I don't know if they see him more as a winger or as a striker, because obviously that's what they're going to lean towards. So whatever their long-term plan is, if he is not going to be playing striker for us, it is a good problem to have that we have 4 really good players for 3 positions, especially in the fact that clubs like Man City and Liverpool have 5 good players for 3 positions. So having one of these guys, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Odegaard, Saka, coming off the bench on tired legs, that's great. That's we need a goal towards the end of the game. I'd rather Martinelli come on than Pepe, if I'm being honest. So not having each one of them start every week, I don't think is as big of a deal as it's made out to be a little bit. I think Smith Rowe should start versus Wolves in the same way that Martinelli had his run of games when Smith Rowe got hurt. Martinelli's red card unfortunately created an opening. Smith Rowe took his opportunity. He scored. He played great. Let's keep giving him games. Let's let players who are on a roll be on a roll. Have Martinelli come off the bench. Hopefully he goes on a little run like Smith Rowe did and have a bunch of goals as a super sub. But I think probably my prediction in the near future is that we will have one of them coming off the bench, which is good. It's very nice to have really exciting depth.
Jay, do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. There's still plenty of games left, isn't there? There's still a lot of football matches. There's still some big games. I mean, ultimately, if the strikers aren't scoring, then there's always going to be that temptation, I suppose, to try something a little bit different in certain situations. You know, if you've got Aubameyang playing up front and he's scored 25 goals already this season or whatever, then you're not going to change him. But because we haven't got that, there's always the chance that, you know, Martinelli might get a chance down the middle. Like Mitch said, I'm not entirely sure that's the right thing to do. And same with Smith Rowe. But ultimately, we haven't got a striker who's scoring. So, like I say, in certain situations, I think we might see it a bit more. You know, it's the one part of the team that isn't quite clicking, isn't it? Defense seems to have been a bit better, and midfield, you know, especially now, Xhaka and Partey are sort of doing pretty well in there. You know, the wide men are doing well. It's just that central striking position that we're still struggling with. So we might see a few changes in there, but ultimately, I think Lacazette's going to get the nod every week, just because we don't really have too many. Well, we don't have anything better, do we? So I've
heard Len, the groundsman, he's pretty tasty. He's in his late 50s, but apparently he's quite a good shot. Let's wrap this part of the show, with a couple of bits. We'll do man of the match, and I'll start off first. Who impressed you guys? But for me, it was Odegaard. He was on fire. It was lovely to watch him. He's such a stylish player, and all the good stuff tends to go for him. He's got so much promise. When I get really annoyed when these guys say 30 million, what a waste of money. I can't see anything. And that will be for Nigel, by the way, if Nigel's watching. Shame on you, sir. He's a quality player, and 30 million, it's daylight robbery. Jay, who was your man of the match?
Yeah, Odegaard played well. Saka played well. I thought in the first half, I thought Gabriel was superb. He just dominated. He did a couple of lovely tackles, and he looked really strong. But yeah, Saka was really good, like he is, so consistent. I thought Smith Rowe was really good. He did a lovely turn right on the touchline. That must have been quite near where you were sitting in the second half, where he sort of sold the defender a dummy and he went right along the byline. I thought that was nice. Quite like that. You know, again showing that the confidence is growing. If he's even though he's a bit short on fitness, but yeah, Odegaard so good. Again, so consistent, isn't he? He's just again very rarely has a bad game, and he's so cute with his passing, and he's a joy, like class player. Yeah, I probably agree with you there. Yeah, Odegaard.
What about you, Mitch?
I agree with everything you guys have said about Odegaard. He was fantastic. Really good chemistry he and Saka have built up on that right side. That dummy that they had in the first half was fantastic. There was a lot of fantastic performances, which is always great. It's always a good thing to have like 5 or 6 players that you're like, oh yeah, they could easily be man of the match. I think Party is one that we didn't talk about, who was really good. I mean, as we've kind of shifted our system into this 4-3-3 shape to midfield, Odegaard's really flourished as that right 8. Xhaka has held down that left 8 really nicely, and then Party in the middle as that 6 has been really dependable. His waiting on the ball to just the perfect moment to let Saka run free for his goal was really good. But I really gotta say that my man of the match goes to Smith Rowe. I mean, that goal was key, came at a key time. Talk about just putting a moment on your back and being like, okay, I'm gonna put this ball in the back of the net. Really great performance from him. And again, it could have gone to 5 or 6 different Arsenal players, which is always great.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? We're talking about individual players, but it was a really good effort by a lot of players, which is really nice to see. Let's just finish with the Wolves game. Xhaka turned down the captain's armband. There's been a bit of a furore and all this sort of humbug online. I didn't really have an issue with it, especially after what happened to him as a captain. Jay?
It was a nothing situation. I think that I was listening to another podcast, and they said that
how dare you, sir?
Apparently the story is that Xhaka didn't turn the armband down. I think what was it? Nketiah
wanted to give him the armband to give to Tierney. Because Arteta said after the match that Tierney is the next man up after Lacazette. That's a new development. Because I think that
hear him or something. Tierney couldn't hear Lacazette.
There was some confusion
Lacazette
with
gave
that.
it to Nketiah, and then Xhaka. I don't know. I think they're in
just told him to hang on to it and give it to him when the ball went out.
I don't even think he turned it down. I think it was just it was all of nothing. And I mean, I said at the time, absolute rubbish. I mean, to be honest, if he did turn it down, you know what? After everything that's happened, could you blame him? If that was you in that situation, if it was after everything that's gone on, the failed transfer to Roma or the nearly transfer to Roma, and then sticking around, and then everything that's happened since, red cards and whatever, could you blame him for saying I'm not going to be? If I was in his position, I'd have probably said no as well. So
I've got a theory. I reckon Xhaka was offered the armband and he went, I'm not touching that. Bugger off. Give it to someone else.
I just think it was just a nothing story. And they tried to make a big deal about it on TV, and it's just nothing. It's just a nothing thing. And like I said, if you were Granit Xhaka, I think we'd all probably say no to that after all.
I mean, he has worn the armband when, like, when Lacazette's been subbed off in situations like that. I think this is like a new development, though, that when Aubameyang left, Lacazette was like officially named captain. And with that, especially with Mikel Arteta's comments after the match that Tierney was the next man up to get the armband, I think that means that Tierney's basically vice captain right now. I personally expect him to be like named officially captain at the end of the season when Lacazette leaves with this new development, which is a pretty cool thing. I think he's totally deserving of it. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I said that I wanted him and Odegaard as captain and vice captain, and I still think that would be really great for the team. So we'll have to see how that develops, but seems like it's going in a pretty good direction.
If there's anything anyone wants to bring up who's watching, it's an Arsenal thing 4@gmail.com. If you don't agree with our opinions, we'll actually give it some voice. We give it some vocals. Right, next part of it. Big plug to the Arsenal therapy show for the next topic. We're going to look at time wasting. Is it becoming a major issue in the game? You got VAR stoppages, you got the ref having a confab with the linesman, injuries, players slow to leave the field, slow to take free kicks, goal kicks, throw-ins. Also, the amount of time that's added on at the end of the game is on the rise. Are we being shortchanged as fans? Because apparently we get like 60 minutes of full-blown action out of an entire 90. Jay, what's your opinion?
So, well, that's quite a big question. So, from my point of view, time wasting has always been part of football. Even growing up, you were taught when I was playing football as a child, if you're winning 1-0 or 2-1 or whatever, and it's a close game, and you get the ball and you're out wide, you take it into the corner and you run the clock down. Or you take a little bit longer taking a throw in or a corner or things like that. So there's nothing new. Obviously, the VAR element's new, and you're never going to get the full amount of time back. But look, you like to think that it will go both ways. Obviously, this is Arsenal, so we don't always get the fair crack like the rest of the teams. But I haven't got a huge problem with it. It's not something that really, it doesn't grate at me. It doesn't really. Like I said, it's nothing new. There's always been time wasting. There's always been gamesmanship. There's always been trying to get that little bit of advantage if you can. Look, I mean, I don't know. It does bother some other people, obviously, but not for me personally. It's not like a huge issue. Not just to finish. I think there's a lot more elements of VAR that are a lot more like pressing, a lot more things need looking at. Referees, the standard of refereeing, and how the standards of refereeing is applied to VAR. That is the bigger thing for me. Once you address that, then I think the time wasting will take care of itself.
Absolutely spot on, Jay. Mitch, how can we manage this? Have the referees got to be more proactive as well during a game so that you haven't got this goalkeeper standing there, as we saw in the Wolves match? There was a bit of unnecessary, not Wolves match, Brentford. As we saw in that match, there was a bit of time wasting going on, and it was very blatant and obvious. Did the referee miss out by sort of, giving him a little bit of a finger wag?
I mean, in the stands, we were booing David Raya every single time he was doing a goal kick because it took him about 30 seconds every time to get himself figured out, maybe even longer. And I mean, like, I think the worst enforced rule in the entire sport is that goalkeepers can only hold the ball for like 8 seconds. And I think Ramsdale holds it for about 16 every game. So
we won't say anything about that. That's...
I think there's a lot of different directions. Like, I mean, obviously as an American, I grew up watching American sports. And so it was kind of a unique thing when I started getting into football, to be able to be like, oh, there's this game I'm watching at 3. It's going to be from 3 to 5, and that's it. It's kind of nice to have like a concise window to watch matches in. If you watch an NFL game, it's going to be 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on game flow. So it's nice how it's usually done, of it being like a solid 2-hour thing. And I feel like any changes, whether that's make the game 70 minutes long and stop the clock every single time the ball goes out of bounds, or I'm not sure how time is collected as it is for stoppage time, but it seems like an estimate. I feel like we have enough technology at this point where, especially with VAR, we have so many cameras on the field at one time. There has to be a way where they can time every single second in which the ball is not moving. And that is the accurate stoppage time that you put on the end of every match. Oh, okay. Instead of like an estimated 5 minutes at the end of a half, great. We have 3 minutes and 36 seconds, and that's it in stoppage time. Because you've accurately been tracking the amount of time in which the ball wasn't stopped. There's definitely enough technology to do that. There's no reason to be guessing how much stoppage time is left, because that's kind of how it feels a lot of times. Like there's some matches where there's no way there was 5 minutes of stoppage time, and then there's others where it's like it should be at least 13 minutes of stoppage time, but we only got like 4.
We all remember Fergie time.
I was just going to mention that.
We all remember Fergie time, and it was just, it became this there'd be 5 minutes left at the end of the game, and this is way before VAR, and it was just Fergie time, and it's been going on for years. And there is the technology 100%, but I can't see anything changing.
Jay, correct me if I'm wrong about that Fergie time. Wasn't it they put up 3 minutes or something, and he went over there and gave them the old Scottish verbal, and it went up to something like 5 or 6, didn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mitch.
I think with like the technology, I think it's probably the best way to do it, of like accurately figuring out how much time to make sure that 90 minutes is actually played. My biggest worry for if there was things like dropping it down to 70 minutes and stopping the clock when it went out of bounds is that I love not having commercials during games. Like when you go to like an American football game, there's just like 3-minute long commercial breaks that you just like have to stand through or just watch through that are just like at random points throughout the game. And it really ruins the flow of like how sports are supposed to happen. And it would suck to have that happen to a sport like football, where it's very constantly flowing. You have 45 straight minutes. You have a lot of ads at halftime, and then you got 45 more straight minutes. It would also create like a harder barrier of entry of like Americans also already have like this like conceived notion about the sport that it's slow, and if you add like more stoppages to it, that's only going to make it worse. So
I think midnight, wouldn't you?
Yeah, like I think the best way to go about it would be to just accurately account for time in which the ball is not in play. I think that's the best way to do it, and seems like it should be the easiest way. If they're not already doing that, that's how they should be doing it.
Let's just give you some blurb here before we start with the opinions of our beloved listeners. Throw-ins, 20 seconds. It takes 20 seconds with some throw-ins. Warnings, 30 seconds. Goal kicks, 30 seconds. Corner kicks, 45. Free kicks, 60. Penalty kicks, 60. Altercations, that's a nice one, 30. And arguing with the referee, at least 30 seconds. Although if you're Man United, it goes on for about a week, doesn't it? So it just goes to show that the time is building up. Some are insisting on an independent official and a clock system similar to rugby. And there's also a suggestion, I'm just trying to find who it was that sent it in. Katie, what about an open mic? Rugby Union has that. And you can hear the decision-making process, and it's more transparent. What do you think about that? I mean, that would clear a lot of doodah up, wouldn't it, with the officials, and we would know where we're at. And if you had this official timekeeper, stopping for every incident, as we've already said, that would probably be bang on. But as you said, Jay, we have got other problems as well. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, there's also, the whole... when there's an offside, but the linesman doesn't give it straight away, and they play the whole passage of play on, and then it gets given, You know, how many times does that happen in a game where, you know, there's a certain amount of time wasted? It is a tough one, really, because games can't just go on and on and on for hours and hours. You know, things like throw-ins, you know, I don't consider that, you know, to be time wasted. That's just part of the game. You know, the main problem we have is the time dedicated to making the VAR decisions and referees getting called over and blah blah blah. And I don't think, like I said, for me personally, it doesn't really bother me too much. But I don't know. It's a tough one, because I just think, like I said earlier, the referee standards and the quality, that needs to be looked at far sooner than the time wasting issue. You know, the quality of referees.
The Arsenal Therapy Show, sorry, Mitch, the Arsenal Therapy Show also noted, we said that we should let the refs control the time wasting. John Moss shows today that they currently cannot. When Arsenal get momentum, one of their lads just lies down for a break. Goal kicks were a bit of a joke.
Yeah, I mean, clarity is something everybody wants, isn't it? Everybody wants that bit of clarity. Everybody wants some actual input from the referees to explain decisions. But for some reason, they're so well protected, aren't they? They don't have to explain any decisions. They don't have to, or they're not made to come out and explain any VAR decision, and you never hear any of it. And that's where part of the frustration is. A large part of the frustration is just not being able to understand why from one week to the next these decisions are so different about very similar situations. But yeah, I mean, any sort of clarity would be a massive positive, you know.
Final thing on this bit. Sorry, Mitch, you carry on first before we get to that.
There's like a lot of talk about this with pretty much all sports. I mean, like in the NFL, there's people that want there was a American Football League called the XFL that was around for about half a season before COVID kind of made it go under for a little bit. They had, for all of their referee decisions, for all their like action replay or challenges, they would go up to a booth where two referees were discussing it, and you would hear them. They were mic'd up, and so you heard the entire process of them making a decision. That's something that the NFL should have into their decision-making system. That's something VAR should have into their decision-making system. That transparency creates less of an animosity between refs and fans, or refs and coaches, refs and players.
Was that well received? Was that well received from support?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was really well received. I think I personally, like, obviously I still think about it as a really good thing that that league did. And I think I would be in the majority of NFL fans that would want NFL referees to have that. And I think every single sport would benefit from that kind of transparency, so that we're not left wondering after a VAR check of a blatant handball in the box, being like, okay, so what were they thinking? Then the fans get a better handle on how games are being reffed, how the refs see the game. They're like, oh, his arm was out there because he was going in at this certain angle, or whatever the thought process is to not give a penalty there. We as fans get to learn what that is, and there's going to be less outrage when it's things that are explained to you. It's way easier to, like, if you're transparent in your process of, like, this is the thought process of why this decision was made in the moment in VAR. I think fans would accept penalty and foul decisions way more if you had that, even if you disagree with it.
I mean, the Brentford game, when Cedric shot, and I can't remember which defender it was who blocked it, put his arm up, and it hit his arm. Mm-hmm. You know, like that, how that can be a natural position is beyond me, you know, and how that wasn't a penalty is, you know, because, you know, the guy was in mid-air and his arm's up there and the ball hits him, has to be a penalty. And like you said, it would have been useful, to say the least, if we could find out why that wasn't given. And then obviously fast forward a couple of hours to the City Spurs game, and City got a penalty at the end. I know the hand was up to his face, but it was given, and not too much difference between the two for me. So yeah,
never is there?
Any transparency would be a good thing. Even a small amount, but it isn't going to happen. Doesn't look like it anyway.
Right, we're nearly wrapped up here. We'll just cover this one more time with one of our eagle-eyed viewers watched the Stoke game and remarked that from the collection of the ball to the actual throw-in, it took 35 seconds. Imagine that 10 times during a game. It's quite wacky, isn't it? You could be allowed that amount of time. And I think that's what people are moaning about. Right, lads, before we go, I sent you this. You can see it. Right, I'll explain to the viewers what it is. You have £10 to spend. In the £5 line, there are 3 players. There's 3 players in the £3 line and 3 players in the £2 line. And you've got to make it come to the equivalent of a tenner. So on the £5 line, you've got Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp and Ian Wright. In the £3 line, you've got Robert Pires, Freddie Ljungberg and Alexis Sanchez. And on the £2 line, I'm not even sure Theo Walcott's worth that. But yeah, Theo Walcott, Mr. Aubameyang, the old snappy dresser, and Robin van Persie. Who did you go for, Jay?
Right, so this is obviously hard. There's no debating how difficult this is. This is super difficult. So I'm going to go with Righty, Alexis, and RVP.
What about you, Mitch?
I'm nearly the same. I'm Henri, Alexis, and RVP.
Right. And explain yourself there, Jay. What was going through your head at the time? Who did you regret not picking?
Well, obviously, leaving Dennis and Thierry out is awful, But
shame on you.
It's Righty, This is the man. This is the living legend, and for me, the best actual striker and goal scorer we've ever had. So he's got to be in there, Righty. But to be fair, any one of those 3 are going to do a great job for you. And then you've got Alexis, Freddie, and Bobby. Like, again, 3 class players, but Alexis, for that sort of 2-year period, he was unreal, wasn't he? He was world class, Alexis, and he stepped up in the big games, scored in cup finals, and he was just dangerous. And then Van Persie, let's just forget about him going to Man United. He carried us for years, didn't he? He carried us for years. Theo was all right. He used to frustrate me to the high heaven, and Aubameyang was good. He was good. There's no debate in it. And again, he carried us as well, to be fair, a couple of years ago, and scored in the cup final. But Van Persie for me was just a little bit better. So yeah, Righty, Alexis, and Van Persie. What
about you, Mitch? Was there any sort of decisions that you thought, oh no, I'm gonna have to have another go at that?
I think like Henri was kind of easy for me. I think he's probably like the greatest player that's played for Arsenal. And then like I feel like Robin van Persie and Aubameyang are a little similar, but like even with RVP going to Man United, I think he has like and this might change with time just because it may have just soured a little bit with Abba. But like Robin van Persie, I feel like has a better legacy as just a pure player right now, as an Arsenal player. And then like I felt I'm personally glad that Jay said Alexis as well, so that I didn't look dumb, because like there's 2 invincibles in this tier, so I felt weird picking Alexis over him. But like he was the best player of the team when I started following the team, so it was hard for me to not pick him. I've watched him. I did not watch Ljungberg and Pires, unfortunately.
I went with I just couldn't do it. The top line caused me major headaches, but I went with Dennis Bergkamp because he's my favourite player. I couldn't not put him in. I've seen so much class from him. From the £3 line, it was Bobby Pires, because that guy was just silky,
unreal
class. I mean, when he got the ball, it looked effortless. It was just
unreal.
Anyone who's not seen Robert Pires in his stride, they've got to go on YouTube and watch the best of Bobby Pires. He was absolutely epic. And I'll go with you with Robin van Persie, because Aubameyang I'm not going to go for. And Theo he just wandered about, didn't he? Half the time he was good on occasion, and on other occasions not so good. Right, let's just talk about the upcoming game. What's your thoughts on it, Jay?
More of the same. It's going to be tough. Wolves, they've been playing well, haven't they? They've had some decent results recently, and they look strong. But you've got to be hoping for a win. You've got to be looking for those 3 points, and we just need to keep grinding the results out. It doesn't really matter how we get those 3 points. It doesn't really. It's not going to be pretty. But I still expect us to win. There's going to be harder games for me as the season goes on. I think we'll see practically the same side. Maybe Tomiyasu to come in on the right for Cedric. And it'll be a tough game, but I'm confident we can get a win.
What's the score, Jay?
I think it's
I love it when he does that. It's almost like he's plucking it out of the air, isn't it?
Similar to Brentford, maybe 2-0, 2-1, 2-0, something like that.
Mitch, what's your thoughts?
Wolves are a very good side. We saw that a couple of weeks ago when we played them away. We were able to come out with a win there with 10 men. It was a very impressive performance. Wolves have gotten better. We've gotten better. Pedro Neto's back for them. He's fantastic. And so they've gotten better, but we are really, really good at home. I anticipate us to be able to hopefully break down their defense to nick a goal. And I'm predicting a 1-0.
I was going to go for a grubby 1-0 as well, and I don't care if it goes off an elbow or an arse cheek or whatever, as long as we just do this and keep the pressure on, because we don't want to let Man United get carried away and start getting a little bit of a run. And have you seen the size of Harry Maguire's head? It's massive. Anyway, lads, thanks for this again in the gun room. It's been a pleasure, and it's been great fun as well. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.